In the darkest nights, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Oh, surviving together, victorious, and never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey y'all, how you doing today? Welcome to Surviving Together. This is a safe space for sexual assault and other trauma survivors to connect and share on their healing journey. And sorry if my energy is just a little bit low today. I fell down the stairs earlier today, so I'm leaning up against a big old ice pack and trying to keep the pain level down. So slippery socks on slippery carpet, carrying laundry baskets just wasn't a good combination. So it was unfortunate destiny. So we'll be all good, just a little banged up, but some little right now. So pardon the lacklusterness that way. But let's see who we've got here. Seventh, ahoy. Yes, welcome. Shannon is here. Hi, how you doing? She is driving and listening. That is totally fine. Definitely do not text and drive. Let's see. Kamal, thanks for being here. Body Illusion. Oh, I don't know if you went live this morning or not. I missed it. I was racing around doing stuff this morning and was trying to get to it. And then I'm not sure if you went or not. Crystal, hey, how you doing? I'm so excited about Crystal's new beginnings. We've got new beginnings going all over. You fell out on your steps and you've got a huge bruise. Yeah, I don't know about my back yet. All I know is I've scraped some skin off, and I'm not sure about the bruise that'll be. I don't know if you can see my developing bruise on my elbow here. So that's looking good, right? So not sure how big that one's gonna get. I bruise like a peach anyway, so I take bruises in strides. I showered and found another bruise that was obviously there beforehand because it was already developed. I'm like, wonder where or how I got that one. So next weekend is move-in time. That is right. Good. January is over. Wow, almost. Hey, William from Brooklyn, how you doing? Nice to see you this afternoon. Sorry, guys. I'm glad it's a subject that I know. Hang on. I got to try and readjust here a minute. Okay. There we go. That's better, I think. We'll see for how long. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Let's see. Who else do we have? Mike. I'm not sure if I said hello to you, Mustang Mike. I'm glad you're here as well. Thanks all for stopping in on a Saturday afternoon. I know it's a busy time for a lot of people. Mena driving and listening. Yes, have fun at that kids' party. She is going to be busy, but that's okay. Nearly shut my laptop, which would have been bad because that's where things are actually going from. Yep, I am suddenly 70. Like all of a sudden, everything, it's like, and I'll probably end up taking some ibuprofen later on. Hang on, guys. I gotta move the keyboard out of the way so I got halfway through writing my notes. I wrote my notes up in one notebook so I could kind of, I write them so I can go and then I rewrite them in a nice area. And for me, I still like handwriting because it sets it in my brain in terms of what I want to say. And I got about halfway through rewriting them before I fell and was kind of like, okay, enough of that. So, hey, Maureen, how you doing? Thanks for stopping in. I really appreciate it. So, what I wanted to talk about today, as the thumbnail stated, was dealing with physical contact after you've experienced trauma. And I want to be clear, this can be immediately after, or in, say, the weeks and the months, or even years after a trauma has occurred that you're dealing with this. Or this can be dealing with physical touch as an adult based on either unresolved or unrecognized childhood trauma. And so this type of trauma can be physical trauma. So let's say as a kid, you were beaten on a regular basis. This can be domestic violence, where there was physical altercations within a relationship. This can be any form of unwanted sexual contact as a child or as an adult. Or particularly, you'll find this in the childhood setting, neglect, specifically the lack of contact. So when there is, what I think, hands off type of thing, or, parents who just weren't particularly touchy, they weren't particularly huggy. Maybe it wasn't them. And so you didn't get that level of contact from the people who are supposed to be nurturing that within you, right? And that can have consequences later on in life. It can have significant consequences with your relationships later on in life. Any of those three. So physical, sexual, or lack of contact as a child can have significant consequences later on in your adult life. And if it's something that you never looked at really as a trauma, or you forgot about, say it's a suppressed sexual trauma, there can be issues in your adult life, whether it's because in situations of intimacy, whether that is you're more prone to get into altercations, into fights. People find that they're a bit more of a hothead. Or depending, maybe they're not as affectionate themselves because they didn't grow up with that. They didn't have that, so they don't know how to emulate it. So if you've never learned it, it can be difficult then to, say, express that either to a partner or to your own children. And everybody in a relationship has different levels of touch that they're comfortable with, right? So it may be that you got with somebody who they're fine with the level of contact that you have because of their particular situation, whatever, that happens to be. And so it's not like you recognize there was an issue. It's not like somebody has been telling you, oh, I wish you would hug me more, or I wish we had more physical contact. So I wanted to be clear in terms of that you need to be, that it can be just after the situation, whether as a child or as an adult, or later on in life. William, that's something that can fit in here, as well. He's saying that it took him a while of just even feeling comfortable staying at a woman's house after his situation with his ex. And that can go both ways. um I have known people who have not been comfortable staying with like in-laws because the parental figures, and their parental figures, they don't have a good relationship with them because of whatever reason. So that certainly can come into play as well. Um, why does this happen? Well, it's kind of intuitive that if you've had a bad touch in some way, that you might be adverse to subsequently being touched in some form or fashion. Now, obviously, being hit or being adverse to an unwanted sexual contact, if somebody's coming up to you in some sort of sexual manner, you might be adverse. But what about just getting touched on the shoulder, or somebody trying to hold your hand, or a family member going in for a hug? These are all sort of innocuous, what to the outsider or to the other person can seem as innocuous touches. Yet for you as the survivor, based on your situation, this can be highly uncomfortable. It can increase anxiety, and it can even lead to panic attacks. So it can be anything from a mild discomfort to, a severe trigger. And it's all going to depend on the person. Have they done any healing from their trauma, and the contexts in which the touches occurred? So somebody who's had lack of contact, they may not be comfortable with a hug because they're just like, what is this? And it's just kind of an uncomfortableness, right? Where somebody who was often attacked from behind, let's say by their domestic partner, has a niece or a nephew who comes running up behind them and gives them a big bear hug from behind, might actually devolve in a full-blown panic attack. So it absolutely depends. Hi, Aquarius. It's been a long time no see. Glad you're here this afternoon. So it totally depends on the individual and their situation that they have. There's no rhyme or reason. You're not going to be able to say because somebody went through X, they're going to be reacting B, right? Hey, Janet, how's it going? Oh, I appreciate you just saying hi. Yeah, she's busy, busy, busy today. So you go ahead and get with your things. And I'm going to try and adjust one more time. Sorry, guys. Why does this happen, though? Why do we take occasionally, or why do our bodies and our brains react to a innocuous touch? Somebody just touching us on the shoulder or tapping our hand or whatever the case may be. Why does our body sometimes go into full-blown panic mode? What is going on here? You can see and look and see the reality of what the situation is. But the problem is when we don't have a resolution and we haven't healed from our trauma, our body in regards to that is going to be on heightened alert, right? Our nervous system is going to react in fight, flight, freeze. And so our brains aren't looking at the situation in terms of the reality of what is now. Our brains are thrown back into that traumatic situation and they're going to react accordingly. And that's why that hug from behind, to where me, I don't have a huge issue with it. My trauma isn't in regards to anything like that. I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. To where somebody else could totally freak out. Just going to be based upon whatever their trauma is. Well, what can you do about this? Well, there's several different things that we need to keep in mind. One, as the survivor, anytime you have this situation where, your anxiety, your discomfort increases, your anxiety goes, you've got your panic attack, whatever your situation is, immediately go to your grounding techniques. And if you are prone at all to increased anxiety or panic attacks because of touch, you definitely should have your go-tos. Some people, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 things I can see, 4 things I can hear, 3 things I can taste, whatever I forget exactly the order of them. I don't think it really matters, but it's a matter of going through the 5 senses and going through them from 5 to 1. And it's grounding you in the present. Similar situation, you can sit quietly and you can do a body scan and just recognizing your body in regards to where you are right now. So I would be looking at it as, okay, I can feel that my butt's in the seat. I can feel that my hands are on the chair. For me, I'm feeling a little achy right now, right? Breathing techniques, those can be very, very grounding. Again, you're bringing yourself to the present. You want to make sure that you're not back there, right? Your crystal says someone coming up from behind and giving her a hug freaks her out. To me, wouldn't, but that's because of how one of her abusers would approach her. For me, if somebody puts something in my face, if it's a quick, even doing my hand makes me a little uncomfortable. But if it's a quick type of thing where it's just passing in front of my face, okay, it makes me a little uncomfortable. I do a few deep breaths and I can be okay. If it's somebody is sticking something in my face or over my face, and the longer that goes on, the more my anxiety is going to start to increase. And the longer that goes on, I'm going to end up in panic, depending. I cannot have anything in front of my face like that. Nope. The only reason I was able to make it down the aisle with a veil was because I could see through it. So, hey, ALV, how you doing? I'm on replay crew tonight for your show. Obviously, I didn't make it onto the awake mode last night. Any type of visualizations that you can do as well can be a very good grounding technique, going to your happy place. So again, if you are susceptible to any of this, you want to have your go-tos. And some things may work in one situation and might not work in another. And that's why I say go-tos. You want to have at least a couple that you've got in your back pocket that you can always pull out in your situation and try. Okay. Now, one of the other things that you can do as a survivor is, one, know what type of touches make you uncomfortable. And sometimes you don't know this until it happens. That can be. But if you already know certain types of touches are triggers for you, or ways of touching you, like from behind or from the side or touching your leg or whatever the situation is, this is definitely things that you should be expressing to those people closest to you. So let's say that as an adult, you've got some childhood trauma, if you have recognized that and you recognize that there are situations and certain touches that make you uncomfortable, you want to have a conversation with your partner. You want to have a conversation with your close friends and family so that they can avoid this. You have to set your boundaries because it does you no good to not, I guess it's plain and simple. It does you no good to not, right? And if people are not going to respect those boundaries, even after you've explained to them why you have those boundaries, then you need to consider how much interaction you have with that person. If it's a friend, is it someone who's truly a friend? If it's family, how do you distance yourself from that? I had a friend who, upon learning about the touch that I found uncomfortable, particularly my face issue, thought it was hilarious to make me uncomfortable that way. Even after I very definitively explained why this was not cool, just continually come up from behind me, put hands in front of her eyes, go, guess who? And it's like, but I'm only joking. I don't care if you're joking. I don't care if you love me to the moon and back. I've asked you not to do it. It makes me highly uncomfortable. And actually, in that particular case, made my anxiety immediately shoot through the roof. And by not respecting my boundary in that, you're not respecting me. So knowing yourself is extremely important. And if you do discover triggers or things that make you uncomfortable, expressing them to those closest to you. William, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. And, you know, you are definitely brave for speaking out with it. Men who go through domestic violence, it's something that is becoming more recognized. It's always been there. You've heard about in the 40s and the 50s, but the domineering mother and the milk toast husband, right? It's always been there. But people didn't recognize it as such. That it's not a man not being a man. It's somebody being domineered by somebody else. And it can happen to either sex, to any gender. And if things make you uncomfortable, then you need to be expressing that to future partners or, again, to friends and family. Now, as an adult, particularly for past physical violence and sexual abuse, the touching can be, hey, Brazy, how you doing? There's just the physical touching. And in what cases are you comfortable with the physical touching, right? When it's a sexual touch, there is a whole another wrinkle that has to do with intimacy. And again, you've got to know what type of physical touch makes you uncomfortable. It may be any sexual contact. Getting back involved in a sexual relationship can be very difficult for people after a sexual assault or upon dealing with previously unrecognized or unresolved sexual childhood sexual trauma. Let me get that in the right order. you may have never been really 100% comfortable with sex. It's not that you were necessarily uncomfortable, but maybe you've never really been present. Maybe it's felt good, but you thought it could be better. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? And so there are definite things that we can do in terms of helping ourselves along that sort of healing journey. First and foremost is if you are engaging or going to engage in a sexual relationship, you need to discuss with your partner. It's just a must because they're not going to know whether to stay away from something or in the heat of the moment, if things get going, where your stopping point is, or if there's a particular type of touch that you're just not okay with. Those boundaries have got to be clear for your sake and for theirs. One of the ways that you can discover what type of touch may not be comfortable for you is through self-exploration. And I do encourage anybody who is either thinking about getting back into sexual relations after having been abused as an adult, or if there is something that makes you uncomfortable, or if you're just not really sure about things because of childhood sexual trauma, you need to know your own body. And through that exploration, you're going to find that there are things maybe that make you uncomfortable. Maybe you won't because it's just you. And that's a step in the right direction, though, as well. So it may be the case where you're uncertain of what could feel good or not feel good with somebody, with a partner. And so you say, we need to take this really slow. I had dealt with my abuse in a lot of respects. But one thing I recognized after my last long-term relationship is that I had difficulty being present. And it's not that I didn't want to be. And I didn't dissociate, meaning totally separating out from my body and it was somebody else there. But I was more kind of outside looking in, like, what should I be doing now? What needs to happen? You know, what, you know, so there was always this thinking going on. There was always thoughts in regards to this. And I wasn't just present in the moment and just able to feel and just able to be. And so that's another way of, I would say, not being comfortable with touch, not being comfortable with the intimacy of it. And there are things that we can do. Relaxation beforehand, taking a bath, massage with a partner. Massage can also be a great way of desensitizing yourself to another's touch, because you can have, hey, James, you can have as much or as little touch and wherever you want that touch to be with that therapist. So let's say that it's, if somebody grabs your hand, that can be very uncomfortable for you. Maybe it's because your abuser always grabbed your hand and drug it to their body part. So perhaps having a hand massage, perhaps just having touch start there. Your hand not going anywhere, just being right where it is, and just starting with that. Getting just used to physical touch on different parts of your body. Okay. Um, Whenever you're going about this, it does need to be gradual. And you need to have grace with yourself. And that's why you also need to have an understanding partner as well. And this is regardless of whether it's been a physical type trauma, physical violence in the past, or whether it's been a sexual trauma. Having desensitizing yourself to touch can also come at your own hand. I've linked a couple of different videos in the description to this one. One is just a really good overview of exactly what I've been talking about today about touch and trauma and how they connect, why, and what can we do to make it better. The other one talks about some touching techniques by Dr. Peter Levine, and he's an expert in trauma. And some of these can be used also as grounding techniques. And I'll just demonstrate a few of them. One is putting your one of your hands underneath your armpit, okay, of your left shoulder, and putting your other hand, so your left hand, on your right shoulder. And it's almost giving yourself a hug in regards to that. And in any of these, Crystal, please do. And if you're not able to deal with it at all, don't. Okay? Please, self-care first. I'm really glad that you're stepping away. Hugs and love to you, girl. Okay? Hugs and love. I'll talk to you later. This is one way of grounding yourself and just kind of taking a body scan, just feeling what's going on between these hands. You can do this with your eyes open or your eyes closed. Another way is one hand on your forehead, one hand on your heart. And just stay in that position, eyes open or eyes closed, until you feel something. Some people will feel kind of an energy flow between your two hands. Some people will feel a warmth beneath each of their hands. It's individual. But you want to stay there until you're noticing, okay? You're noticing what is going on between these two hands. And if you want to, then you can also move your hand from your head down to your belly and do the same exercise. There's other ones that have to do with that. Some are tapping exercises, and sometimes it's tapping all over your body. There is tapping itself, which is EFT, and it's tapping certain areas in a certain order. That's all that I can remember off the top of my head, but those are some therapeutic approaches to getting used to touch again. All right. And critical that you're able to deal with it with your own touch. Some other therapeutic approaches, pretty much when we're dealing with touch, anything that is soma-based, so body-based therapy approaches. Talk therapy in general again, it does depend on the person, and I won't say no one, because I do know of some people where talk therapy, even in a touch and shoot, is the only thing that works for them, and that's fine. Um, but generally speaking, soma-based therapies are going to be your best. Any movement-based therapies, yoga, dance, those sorts of things are going to be highly effective. And actually, the studies right now that have been coming out show that yoga has been far, by far, the most effective therapy for people dealing with PTSD. And this also can go for CPTSD, beyond anything else that they've found. EMDR is another one that is being highly effective, and that's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And basically, this is um, it's a way of reprocessing your traumatic memories into something that aren't traumatic. And there's eye movement. I have not gone through it myself, so I cannot walk you through it. Might be something, if any of you have ever been through it and are willing to talk about your experience with the MDR, be very interested to speak with you, whether it's something that you want to come on a chat and do like an interview situation with, or just are willing to talk to me about. Email me, SurvivingTogether, sass@gmail.com. That would be great. Let's see. Some other therapeutic approaches. Journaling. And this isn't a body-based thing. So why can this be a therapeutic approach? Well, particularly when you have those situations where you have reacted to a touch, being able to work through your feelings in regards to it, being able to write it out, processing those feelings as you're writing can be extremely helpful. And I think sometimes one of the things that I look at journaling at is being able to look to our past and see where we've come, because it doesn't always feel like we've gotten anywhere with our therapy, or with our dealing with things. And if we're able to look back, hey, Thindu, how you doing? Thanks for stopping in. If we're able to look back and see where we've come and how we felt about a situation before, maybe how we're feeling about it now, that reinforcement of, hey, I am doing better. I'm not quite as sensitive as I used to be. And I encourage you guys to always, when you're thinking about, as you're going through any of these therapies, there's no timeline. I know that we live in a world where we have instant gratification with a lot of different things. But sometimes we can get somewhere quickly with an issue, but sometimes it will take a long time. Months, years, just depends. Depends on the issue, depends on how much you've got surrounding that issue, how many things that you have to unpack. And occasionally, we deal with issues and we felt we're doing good. And down the road, we discover, I'm going to have to revisit this. Something else came up. There was another wrinkle with that. And that's okay. It's not a one and done. Mental health is not you deal with it and boom, you're done. It's a lifelong journey, right? We may be able to close doors on certain traumas and certain aspects of things that we need to deal with, but ensuring that we have good mental health, this means we're always on that journey. It's never ending. And that's not to say it in a bad way. It's just to say that we always want to be ensuring that we are doing the best that we can for our mental health. And that's why I applaud Crystal for stepping back. It may not be for you. Hey, Dave. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. Um, Actually, we'll probably be done here at 4 just because I'm hurting a little. And I don't know how much more that I'm going to be able to do here today. But take what I say in regards to if you think you've never had a problem with physical touch, scan your life. Has there has there been a physical based trauma in your past, say in your childhood? Have you ever not reacted well as an adult to people getting in your face? You know, stepping up to you, getting that domineering, aspect, or just pushing your chest. This can be a result of trauma that you suffered in the past. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to, because I wouldn't like somebody getting in my face either, right? But depending on what your situation was, let's take physical violence for a moment. Depending on what your situation was, whether it was physical violence to yourself because you didn't do something right or perceived right or within the right amount of time that the abuser wanted it to, or whether it was witnessing violence, physical violence within the home, that can have an impact on us as well as to how we receive touch. Somebody may come up to us in a non-threatening manner, but we may react like that every single time because it's you don't lay hands on me. I react poorly when that happens. Don't lay hands on me. That can be the case. If you ever suffered unwanted sexual contact when you were a kid, you may have had some issues with intimacy. Maybe you didn't have a problem with somebody, say, touching you or vice versa. But the intimacy act, that connection with somebody else, being able to be present for the entirety of that experience may be lacking. You can go through the motions of it, but there isn't the emotion behind it. You're not able to invest that aspect of it. So it can affect in different ways. Maureen says, I react real fast. Yeah, if it's in front of my face, if it's that aspect, I'm as well. I mean, you will find I will step back extremely quick. And if I can't step back, I'll be dropping down. I mean, I will do anything I can to get somebody out of my face. You need to step back and you need to do it right now. This is going to be your only warning. If I can't get out of the situation. And again, I've had people think it's funny. Oh, what are you intimidated by me? I'm a big, strong man. And it's like, you know what? One knee to your nuts and you're going to drop. It's up to them whether they want to take the risk. I have no bones about doing it. I don't joke about that. And I make it very clear to them. And then when they discover why, if they stick around long enough, if we've had that much of a conversation, generally they feel like a real dick, which they should, obviously, right? Because you just shouldn't be doing that anyway. If somebody asks you not to do something, respect their boundaries. You have no idea why they've set that boundary for themselves. And so if you want respect, give respect. Any questions? I'm going to open it up to the chat here real quick as I readjust. Any questions you guys have about any of this information? I heard a statement this morning, and I was going to make a short on it before I fell, and I really like it. And it says, our bodies are wired for connection. Trauma rewires it for protection. One, I love rhyming. I love that it rhymes, but it's so simple and it's so true. And this is why, even despite our traumas, we still yearn for connection with people. And that may just be emotional connection, but we're human beings and we're wired for touch connection as well. Platonic or romantic, but we are wired for connection, for touch. You know, the babies that don't get held develop very differently than those who are. You know, I remember my mom giving advice, you know, when my son was young, you know, don't go in and pick him up, let him cry it out. I couldn't do that. And now the research is kind of turning a little bit, saying there's something for letting a kid, you know, figure out their self-soothing. However, after a few minutes, after 5 minutes, if this kid is, you know, crying 10, 15, 20 minutes every night, every time you put them down, that's not as positive for their development. So, and it's the same with kids as they grow up. You know, my mom was much more of a hugger and physical touch than my dad was. But neither of his parents were touchy-feely. I don't know if it was just a Polish Catholic thing, Polish Catholic in the 40s thing. It just, you know, 40s and 50s, it just wasn't them, right? I think I find this a lot in Eastern European people from Eastern Europe, Poland, Germany, Czech, you know, any of that kind of thing. And it certainly can be with, you know, people from other areas, but the era that it was as well is so individual. So how we react to touch can have to do with our upbringing. It can have to do with the culture that we're in. It can have to do with and the trauma that we've experienced in the past. And how we deal with it later in life is going to be wholly dependent on all of those different factors, whether we have ever set our boundaries, whether we've had people repeatedly try to break our boundaries, whether we've ever even recognized that we have these issues in the first place, that they're related to something in our past, or we've just thought, you know, this is just the way I react, and never really given it much thought beyond that, which is possible as well. So if there are no questions in regards to this, I think I've given you guys the rundown basics of trauma and physical touch. If anybody has any questions, sometimes it's things that you just don't want to ask out in the open, and that's fine too. Feel free to email me, SurvivingTogether, sass@gmail.com. If you think of something later on, you can throw it in the comments. If you're on replay, feel free, throw it in the comments. If you guys wait 30 seconds after this is done, throw a comment. That would be great. The algorithm really loves it. Hit the like button if you could. subscribe if you haven't, because you'll definitely then get notifications of when I'm on. Thing do. Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. I think what Thindu was reading is I'm going to be on at 7 o'clock tonight on Echo's channel. Her channel is my Living My Best Life at 60. Yeah, I have a link in my community post to that, and that'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be talking about my story, about how the channel got started, kind of the future of the channel, where I'd like things to go, some tips and tricks for parents and kids in regards to how to protect themselves from predators, and anything else Echo or the chat has a question about. It's I'm definitely an open book when it comes to that. So feel free to drop on in and ask anything you like. Thank you, Carmel. Carmel's dropped in Jimena's channel down below there. She had a wonderful interview with James Simpson. That was her second in the Journeys to Light series. That's the first one she did about her grandparents. And I will be involved in that series as well. So you'll see me on the channel at some point too. And thank you, Kamal. There's a link to Living My Best Life's channel. I have a link to the actual live with my community, but either you can get to it either way. I'm not sure. As far as I know, I do believe Jimena will be back on Monday. It's Heart to Heart Conversations is the name of her new show, and 1 p.m. Eastern, I do believe, noon Central. All right, guys, I think that's it for today. I'm sorry it's a little bit short of a live. I'm James Simpson is on here at 4 o'clock. He on his channel. He's going to be giving us a tour of a island. It starts with a K, and I can't remember exactly what it's called. Cretolia. I'm getting that wrong. Anyway, it's a Mediterranean island, it's a Greek island. And apparently he was there, and I saw a picture of it, and it looked absolutely gorgeous. I'm not sure if I can watch it right now because I may be jealous out of my skin. We'll have to see. Thank you, Maureen. You as well. Thanks for being here today. So yeah, I think that's it. So I will look forward to seeing you. If you're going to drop in the chat tonight on Echoes, I'll be there at 7 o'clock tonight. I think I'm just going to relax a little bit in between here and then and grab some dinner. And I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. I will see you here Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. I do have a new series started. Exactly what's going to come first, I'm not sure. So I haven't put up my thumbnails yet, but those will definitely be coming probably by Monday. So remember, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are good enough just the way you are. Hugs and love, guys. Surviving together, never alone. Have a great one. I'll see about realigning my bones, Kermel. Thanks. Bye, guys.